There are three things the 49ers must do to have success in the second half of the 2022 season. We'll discuss those and much more on tonight's Jack Hammer Show. Hey, everybody, it's Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Hope you are doing well. It's going to be a fun show tonight. 49ers getting ready to come off of their bye week. They've showed back up in Santa Clara today for a light workout, and we'll have tomorrow off before really starting to dig in and get ready for the return to action in the second half of the season against the Los Angeles Chargers at Levi Stadium on Sunday night. Before we get into my three keys of what we're going to be looking for the 49ers for them to have success in the second half of the season, just want to shout out a few folks in the comment section. We have Patobo Hammer over here. He says, Jack, the great, bang, bang, Niner gang. Let's go Niners. We got Lucas Pesci, member of the Toolbox. Says, hi, Jack. Hey, Lucas, good to have you on board. Hope you're doing well. Got Raphael 562 Niners, another Toolbox member. What's up, Jack? Members of the Toolbox and everyone. And then last but not least, right now, Odd Job says, Jack, laying down the hammer. Good to have you guys all on board. Let's get into this one. You know, the 49ers had an interesting first half, 4-4. And so the way that I wanted to do tonight's show was we're going to do a bunch of different topics based off of the mailbag question that I asked you guys last week. I asked everybody on Twitter, let me know what questions you want to hear about the 49ers going into the second half of the season, anything that you have on your mind. So we got some really good ones. We'll go through those tonight for the show. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to hit them up over in the comment section. I'll even put the call-in number in over here if you guys want, or the call-in link if you guys want to go ahead and call in and chat a little bit about it tonight. That'd be fun as well. So that's over on the side there in the comment section of it. Let's go and take a look at the first one really quick. I'm going to bring these up, and as I mentioned, this is the title of the show. Makes it really easy. The top three concerns for the 49ers during the second half, and this comes from Shockmax. This one's easy. I think when we look at football in the NFL at any level, we make football way too complicated. It's a very basic game at its core. It's tackling, it's throwing the ball, it's running the ball, putting the ball in the end zone, and it's really all about what you do with your feet. Right. And it's also what you do with your arm now in the NFL with how often you throw it. But it's really a basic game. So the number one thing that the 49ers have to do in order to be successful in the second half is they need to execute. Execution is why the 49ers are at 4-4 and why they're not at 6-2 or 7-1. They didn't execute at times during the first half of the season, whether it was an overthrow in Chicago, a fumble in Chicago, stepping out of the back of the end zone in Denver, not rushing in your proper pass rush lane against Atlanta, not holding on the football as you go to the ground and fumbling, going into Kansas City and having the Chiefs come into Levi Stadium and just not execute really at any point in that game. So that's the whole key to the 49ers. If they go out and execute, we know the 49ers have talent. They have a talent as good as any in the league if they execute and they play to their level. We just saw it last week in Los Angeles when the 49ers beat the Rams. We saw them put up 31 points against the Rams. We saw the Rams go out to Tampa Bay yesterday, and we saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers be able to put up only 16 points. And a lot of those points come in at the fourth quarter, right? So the team that everybody, a lot of 49er fans that I heard saying, or a lot of people around the 49ers saying, no, they're not a very good team, meaning the Rams. We saw the Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers only get to 16 points on them yesterday. So the 49ers are a really good team if they execute. And so that is the main thing that the 49ers must do if they are going to get to the playoffs and make a deep run into the Super Bowl, towards the Super Bowl this year in the playoffs, is they need to be able to come out and execute, and they need to do it on offense, and they need to do it on defense. On offense, it's pretty simple. You have the 49ers are one of the most penalized offenses in the league. They need to knock that off, and they need to clean up those penalties. They need to clean up the turnovers. They have fumbled the ball at one of the highest rates in the NFL. They need to catch the ball when it's thrown to them. They've dropped passes at one of the highest rates in the NFL. You clear these things up on offense, and all of a sudden you're going to be able to do like what you did against the Rams last Sunday down at SoFi and score 31 points. On the defensive side of the ball, it's not quite as many things to clean up because they're pretty good over on that side of the ball. But primarily over on the defensive side, when you look at the quarterbacks that they're going to have to face, a couple of them, such as this weekend, Josh Herbert, a guy that's very mobile, can run around and move. That's a big piece of what the Chargers are going to challenge the 49ers with. And can the 49ers defensive front contain Justin Herbert, not allow him to run around and make plays with his legs? Can they keep him locked down in the pocket and force him to beat him with his arm? Something that, he's been okay with. I think Justin Herbert's, he's a very good quarterback. That team doesn't win a lot, and you look at the numbers that he put up against, say, somebody like Denver, compare him to what the 49ers did against Denver and in Denver. Pretty similar stuff. And I think Justin Herbert's a heck of a player, but you got to keep him locked in that pocket. The 49ers pass rush needs to do a good job of maintaining their pass rush lanes. So if they're running a stunt or a twist, they need to make sure that they're getting into that proper location so that they don't open up a hole for them to be able to take off. And that's something that we saw burn the 49ers in Atlanta on that 3rd and 12. They'd run a twist up front, a stunt. They get out of their pass rush lanes, and Marcus Mariota takes off up the field on 3rd and 12 for a gain of 15. Stuff like that has hurt the 49ers defense when they played these mobile quarterbacks. We saw it in Denver in the fourth quarter with Russell Wilson, kind of just enough of a gap in your pass rush lanes that you let the guy take off. So that's one of the main things that we need to see from the 49ers on the defensive side of the ball is rush the passer. Don't allow these mobile quarterbacks to be able to get out and use their legs on you. Keep them down in the pocket. You're going to be dealing with that twice with Kyler Murray in the second half of the season. So that's one of the biggest pieces. And the last one, it's the most basic piece of football. You just need to tackle. I think they're going to be okay with coverage. I think they're going to be okay getting after the quarterbacks. I think they're going to be okay in all those things. But pass rush integrity on the defensive line, tackling, those are the things that they must do on the defensive side if they're going to get to the playoffs, and then we'll see where they go in from there. So that's number one, execution. Number two, you got to get healthy. The 49ers had a lot of injuries in the first half of the season. They need to keep those injuries to a minimum in the second half. They got a lot of guys that look like they're going to be coming back this week. Deebo Samuel was on the field. Jawan Jennings was on the field. The 49ers activated or opened the practice window for their some of the guys, 3 of the players that were on their injured reserve list. So those guys returned to practice today as well. Azeez Al-Shaair, one of them, Colton McKivitz, and Elijah Mitchell, the other 2. So, getting those guys back, getting them healthy. Al-Shaair, a really high-level third linebacker on this group. If Dwayne Greenlaw is still injured, Al-Shaair would be a heck of a guy to fill in for that spot. Colton McKivitz, really good swing tackle, can play all over the offensive line. Mostly they want to have him at the tackle position as a backup. And then you have Elijah Mitchell, and you put Elijah Mitchell together with Christian McCaffrey. I think you have a heck of a 1-2 punch as long as you keep Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey healthy. So that's the other big piece of it. And then on top of that, I've seen some questions on Javon Kinlaw and Eric Armstead. We'll get to that a little bit as well. But those are 2 more names that you'd like to see the 49ers possibly get back. Armstead, Kinlaw were 2 of the guys that I had marked down as my on the negative side with the defensive group. Just the ones that are most frustrating because of those injuries have really caused some issues for them this year, and it's caused some issues for the interior of the 49ers defensive line. So get healthy and try to eliminate these injuries down the second half of the season. That's a big one for the 49ers. And then last but not least, And this is one that goes back to 2019. Goes back all for Kyle Shanahan. It goes back all the way to his time when he was at Atlanta and so on. The number 3 things the 49ers need to do in order to have success in the second half of the season, they need to finish games. They've got to finish. They've got to play the whole. They're going to have games where they're going to be in the lead. They need to be able to hold on to them. We've seen them with 10-point leads struggle to maintain those. They need to be able to finish out games. And if they can do that, this is a team that I think you look at the schedule ahead. There's some really tough games on there. I think this one against Los Angeles, against the Chargers is one of the tougher of the matchups. But even the games against Arizona are going to be interesting because they have DeAndre Hopkins back. And again, talked about a little bit earlier with the mobile quarterback thing, and the Cardinals, for all their warts, were able to go and play the 49ers twice last year and sweep them. And the 49ers have had a hard time with the Cardinals regardless. So need to get healthy and go through there and finish it off. So there you go. Execute, stay healthy, finish games. Those are the 3 things the 49ers need to do during the second half if they are going to be successful, make it to the playoffs, and make a run. All right. Now, let's let me take a look at the comment section real quick before we get to anything else, because I think I saw a few of them. Jan Stewart comes in, says they need to score more than the other team. There you go. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Just got to make it as basic as possible, right? KW2421, they need to not give away points to the opponent through dumb mistakes. There you go. That's the execution piece I was just talking about. So there's the turnovers. Don't give up points through those dumb mistakes. So dumb mistakes are your turnovers and broken coverages. Those types of things are where you get those dumb mistakes. KW24 also comes in and says, how important is beating San Diego, and how well do they match up with them? Well, it's the Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers, but I get it, San Diego. I think it's extremely important for the 49ers to beat the Chargers on Sunday night. You're 4-4 starting the second half of the season. I don't think you want to fall to 4-5. You don't want to be in that situation where you're 9 games in, you're under 500 like you were last year. Remember, they were 4-5 last year as well. That 4th win coming at Levi Stadium on Monday night against the Rams. They were 3-5 going into that game. That got them to 4-5. You don't want to be in that position. You want to be 5-4 heading into Monday night in Mexico City. So this is an extremely important game for the 49ers, in my opinion, in terms of just positioning as they move forward. You look at it's not a tiebreaker scenario because it's an AFC team instead of an NFC team, but you need to get this win. At 4-4, you just can't get below 500. The Seahawks don't seem like they're going to go away anytime soon, and I know they have a couple of tough games on their schedule. Looking ahead of them, they're going to have to play against Kansas City and some of these other teams the 49ers already played against. But right now, it looks like Seattle's kind of they're going to stake on this run a little bit. And I think the 49ers need to stay within position, so that game on the 15th of December up in Seattle could determine the NFC West. Let's see what else we got over here. Again, if you want to call in, you can call in as well. That is over in the comment section over there. So don't hesitate to if you want to give a call in and want to talk, we can do that as well. All right, let's get to the next one. Zach Mann comes in. He says, should we expect any shuffles in the depth chart? Ward at safety, Brunskill coming in somewhere, Warner versus Dwelly. That's for the tight end 2 position. In terms of the shuffles in the depth chart, Ward replacing Tayshaun Gibson could be one of those. It seems to me, though, that the 49ers really like what they have in that safety tandem with Gibson and Hufanga on the back end. And for right now, I can see where they would go ahead and keep Jimmy Ward in the slot and keep him down there. Even though I think he struggles and it's not really where I want to see him play, I could see them sticking with Ward at that nickel position, staying with Gibson and Hufanga as your deep safeties. One of the things that's interesting, you look at what Hufanga and Gibson have done already this year. They have 4 interceptions on the season. That's the most the 49ers have put up in a year since they had 7 in 2014 from their safety position. So I'm not sure the direction that they're going to go with Jimmy Ward here. I'm not sure if they want to change that chemistry that they have on the back end of that defense, because like I said, those two are working really well together. Jimmy Ward's a lot more expensive than Tayshaun Gibson is going to be going forward as well. I don't know the direction that's going, but I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to see Jimmy Ward playing nickel throughout most of this season. As far as Daniel Brunskill coming in somewhere, you look at this, and there's two places that he's going to come in. Left guard's locked down. Aaron Banks is your left guard for the 49ers for a long time. So now you're looking at the center position where you have Jake Brendel, or maybe right guard with Spencer Burford. Right now, primarily Brunskill has been rotating with Burford at that right guard spot. So for me, I think if you see a major shuffle in the 49ers offensive line, it's going to be Daniel Brunskill stepping in at right guard full time for Spencer Burford, which would be an interesting thing to do. Brunskill, veteran, been around for a while. Not sure if he's going to be a long-term solution for the 49ers, meanwhile you have Burford, who you would expect Burford to be the long-term guy. He's a rookie right now. He's played, he started every game for you. He hasn't played every snap because you've been rotating him and pulling him in and out. But Burford, I think, is a long-term member of the 49ers, and I'm not sure if you want to pull Brunskill out to replace him. As far as Brendel at center, again, I think that's one where they have the better player playing center. Jake Brendel did a much better job throughout training camp with getting the snaps to the quarterback. He gets beat at times. He's not necessarily going to win on bull rushes, and he's not necessarily the strongest guy at the point of attack always, but he is fast and quick enough. He's got quick feet, and he's able to move really well. And so that's where he fits in good at the center position. We're talking about Jake Brendel now. So, going back to that, if you see Brunskill come anywhere, I think it's probably going to be right guard for Spencer Burford, although I think that might be a little bit of a long shot too, because I think Spencer Burford is a guy that the 49ers expect to be a starter for a long period of time. And then last one, Charlie Woerner versus Ross Dwelley. To me, this is a no-brainer. There's no comparison between these two when it comes to catching the ball. Ross Dwelley is a much better receiver than Charlie Woerner. So for me, I think you're going to see the 49ers continue to go down the road that we've seen them take the last couple of weeks, which is where you're seeing Ross Dwelley get more and more snaps and splitting some more time with Charlie Woerner. There had been a point there when Woerner came back where Dwelley wasn't getting any snaps at all. He was only, I think, had 13 snaps for over the course of like a 4-week period. But that's definitely increased over the last couple. And I think this is one that you're going to continue to see moving forward, is that you're going to see Dwelley getting some snaps, and you're going to see him getting an increased number of targets over Woerner. Maybe not to the point where he's necessarily the number 2, but he's you'll probably still see Woerner on the field more often than Dwelley, at least early on in games, like, with that first unit, say like the start, that kind of thing. But I think you're going to continue to see Dwelley take those snaps from Woerner. 49ers have run a lot of 12 personnel. They really like to get into that into that personnel group. They run a lot of 12. They've been using a little bit more 12, and even when they're in 21 personnel, sometimes they utilize that like a 12. But a lot of 12 personnel recently. I know they use a lot of 12 against the Rams, primarily, because they didn't have Kyle Juszczyk, and so they were using the tight end as their fullback. But they really do like to have 2 tight ends on the field. It helps their offense put the defense in their base defense, which opens up opportunities in the passing game for the 49ers. So there you go. The shuffles that we're talking about, Ward at safety, I think we're probably going to see him more in the nickel. Brunskill, again, if he comes in, it's most likely going to be at right guard, I believe, for Spencer Burford. But I wouldn't make that a prediction. And then Woerner versus Dwelley, you're going to see Dwelley continue to get more and more snaps as we go through. All right, we got Moonman coming in with a super chat. Jack, love the show, man. Any news on Jason Verrett at practice? I'm going to get into Jason Verrett here in just a minute, but he was at practice. He's one of the guys that's coming back. right? He's been participating. He's been he's elevated. He's on the roster now. It's just a matter of him being active for a game. We're going to find out. There wasn't anything today. We're not really going to see. Let me just pull this up. Give me a second because I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to answer one of the other questions at the same time, man. That was actually Earn SF 49ers 89 on Twitter asks, how does Jason Verrett look in practice? Will he have an impact on the 49ers second half? So that goes right along with the super chat that we have from Moonman here. Jack, love the show. Any news on Jason Verrett at practice? And here's the deal. No, there's no news on Verrett at practice. And we're limited in what we get to see. The reporters that are at practice, I'm there always on Wednesdays. Sometimes I'm there other days, but primarily on Wednesday is the day that I'm able to get out there right now. What we get to see of practice is basically the warm-ups when they're all doing their stretches, and that's their dynamic stretches where they're moving. So we get to see that, which is period 1. We get to see period 2 and 3, which are generally period 2 is their special teams period. And that's usually where, if you're watching the videos that I'm posting here during period 2, that's when the quarterbacks are doing their warm-ups and we see them going through their stuff. Sometimes you'll see me and others posting pictures of Jimmy Ward or Jason Verrett or some of the DBs working off on the side, so on. That's usually period 2 at practice. Period 3 is when it's still special teams period, but the quarterbacks actually they finished their special teams. The offense and defense is separated. You've got the quarterbacks working with the running backs and the receivers together, and then that bleeds into period 4. So I'll keep a little bit better eye on Jason Verrett. We don't really get to see them. We get to see him go through some individual drills. So maybe what I'll do is I'll try to get some video of that on Wednesday's practice for you of Jason Verrett, so you get a little bit better idea. But we don't really get to see a whole lot of it. Really, when it comes down to Jason Verrett, we're all taking shots in the dark at what we're hearing from unless you have a source inside the building that's giving you other information. We're all kind of taking shots of what we're hearing based off of what we're hearing from the coaching staff. And when it comes down to Jason Verrett, I think this would be a week that you see him be activated. They're on grass, not on the turf like they were last 2 weeks ago down at SoFi. So if he's going to be making a comeback, this would be a good time for Jason Verrett to make the return to the lineup. Thank you, Mooman, for the super chat. So as far as Jason Verrett, how he looks at practice, he's looking really good when he's in his individual work. We don't get a chance to see him, though, on the field working in those team drills. They just don't allow us during that period. We leave shortly after period 4, right as they start their first team session of the day. That's when they kick us out. So all right, just looking through. Dan R. comes in and says, hi, Jack, do you think there's any chance McGlinchey gets benched coming out of the bye week? No, I don't. Mike McGlinchey is going to be the starting right tackle for the 49ers. This is an interesting one. You know, there's a contingent of 49er fans who really dislike Mike McGlinchey. I get it to an extent because he plays a position that you get a lot of eyeballs on. And so sometimes you see a sack and you want to know why. Here's the thing with McGlinchey. He is a average to above average run blocker. He is an average to slightly below average pass blocker. You put it all together, he's probably around the 16 to 20 range when it comes to right tackles in the NFL. Mike McGlinchey is nowhere near as bad as people want to make him out to be. He's just not. Mike McGlinchey is not somebody who I would expect to make huge money on the free agent market. But again, he has value in the NFL. And if the 49ers were to move on from Mike McGlinchey, he's going to be a starting right tackle in the NFL. There's no doubt about it. He's not a backup caliber starting right tackle. He is a starting right tackle caliber player. You might disagree with it, but that's what it is. You look at the game against the Rams, for example, he gave up the sack early on. Even on that one, as I pointed out in my film breakdown, that's a tough block for him to make based on the angle with that guy being so far away from him, that end not getting touched. that's a tough one for him to get out there because of the speed that guy's bringing around the corner and that angle that he's able to come at. It's just basically a straight run. McGlinchey's got to come out of his stance and get back there. That's a really tough one because by the time he gets there, that guy's already to his outside shoulder and he's catching him. Second one, you're looking at a defensive end whose first reaction at the snap is to drop. So then McGlinchey looks inside and it's a delayed rush, giving up the sack. It's a sack. It's on him. Needs to do a better job, but it's not necessarily as bad as it looks. Just explaining the play to you. And then the rest of the game, second half, and the Friars put up 21 points. Mike McGlinchey played very well. So you're going to get some bad. All these guys make mistakes. You had Trent Williams give up a sack in the end zone 2 weeks ago against Kansas City. So tackles get beat. Mike McGlinchey's going to get beat. He's not going to get replaced. Colton McKivitz is not better than Mike McGlinchey. All right. There is some inconsistency in his game. That's it. That's what happens when you are not a top flight player, right? You have some inconsistencies. It's a matter of how can you limit that inconsistency. And I think that Mike McGlinchey has the ability to limit it to a certain extent, and it'll be he's going to get a little bit of a break this week, not having to face against Joey Bosa. I think that'll help out, but he's still going to have a challenge with Mac. All right, moving on. Sticking on the defensive side of the ball, we have Jose come in and he says, is Eric Armstead's return the principal ingredient to win the NFC and get one more shot at the Super Bowl this season? That's a really good question because when I first saw this come through, my initial response was no. I don't think it's a principal ingredient at all for the Friars to be able to get a shot at the Super Bowl this year. The more I thought about it, the more that I think that having Eric Armstead on the field, this 49ers defense is going to be good without him. We've seen it be good without him, but they need Eric Armstead on the field, and they need Eric Armstead to be able to play at the level that we've seen him play the last couple of years. Because Eric Armstead is a very good defensive tackle in the NFL. He is one of the better defensive tackles. I'd say he's easily in the top 10. When it comes to defensive tackles, he really helps their run defense. So this week, playing against the Chargers, you have they have a decent running game, and having Eric Armstead in there to secure that inside. That's one of the reasons why having him and Javon Kinlaw out at the same time has been a little bit of a bummer because they're very good inside against the run, and the Friars have a good rotation of talent inside and all along that defensive line, but they don't necessarily have guys that are down and down out players like an Eric Armstead to do that. And so for the Friars to win the NFC, when they get to the playoffs, yes, I think the 49ers need Eric Armstead to get to the NFC Championship game. They need Eric Armstead to get to the Super Bowl. Do they need Eric Armstead to win necessarily week in and week out right now? Not necessarily, but I think that Eric Armstead is a very vital piece to this defense and something that the 49ers need to someone that the 49ers need to get back healthy. So, going back to, the three keys for the 49ers and what for the second half, the three things they need to do, getting healthy. That's a big one. Eric Armstead getting healthy. That's a big thing for the 49ers in the second half. They really need him healthy. Just helps out that pass rush, helps out that run defense, helps out guys like Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa is going to get his anyways, but it's going to help everybody else out. He's a guy you don't have to take off the field when he's in a defensive tackle because he can pass rush really well from inside. He's a really good run defender, so that helps out as well. So getting Eric Armstead back, yes, Jose, that would be a principal ingredient to win the NFC this year. Now, one other thing that's been asked a lot about Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, both these guys have been out. People want to know what's going on. Eric Armstead was not at practice today, or he was not participating in practice, I should say. So his status is up in the air. We'll see if he is back at practice on Wednesday. We'll get a little bit better idea of where he is. He's got that dealing with foot and ankle injuries. So tough deal for Armstead. We'll find out more on him on Wednesday. But Javon Kinlaw will not be playing this week. Javon Kinlaw has one more week on IR before the 49ers can activate him. So Javon Kinlaw is definitely out against the Chargers. The earliest he could come back is when the 49ers take on the Cardinals in Mexico City. I wouldn't expect to see that, in part because that is a game that's going to be played at a high altitude. Remember, Mexico City that stadium, I believe, is higher than Mile High. I think it might even be twice as high as Mile High. It has a very high elevation. You start dealing with elevation changes and those kind of things, and your body just reacts differently. So I would not expect to see Javon Kinlaw until after the 49ers play the Monday night game against the Arizona Cardinals. So we're looking at right around the Thanksgiving game. That weekend of Thanksgiving, I think, will be when we see Javon Kinlaw, if we do, at the earliest. We got Randall Riley. His particular injury, plantar fasciitis, is an injury in which there's no time frame for when he can come back. Unfortunately, that's a tough one. And you add on the plantar fasciitis to the ankle, and I think right now what you're looking at as far as the foot piece of it is he's going to have to be able to work through it, the stuff with his foot. The ankle, I think, might be what's holding him back more than the foot at this point, because I don't think the foot's necessarily going to get better this season. It's going to be something he's going to be dealing with all throughout the year. We need Mooney to heal up and get Armstead and Alshire back. I think you're talking about Ward, but Ward's already healthy. That's the good piece. That's Charvarius Ward. Again, why didn't the Niners trade for defensive tackle? Wants to know, MF. Is Armstead coming back soon? That could be one of the reasons. I think they also they don't have a whole lot to trade. They used a lot of picks to get Christian McCaffrey. They emphasize that for their offensive side. I think they feel pretty good about the defense with their rotation guys. I think they feel pretty good that at some point they're going to get Armstead back. I just don't know if it's going to be soon. So when it comes to Eric Armstead, once again, we just got to keep our eyes on him. I think that's going to be something where we see him coming back down the road, but I don't know. We got to keep an eye on that one. All right, let's get to the last of the topics for tonight. Do the 49ers have interest in OBJ, and what would his role be on the team? This comes from Scott Freidenberg at SFFred49. OBJ, do the 49ers have interest in Odell Beckham Jr.? I think it makes sense for the 49ers to have some interest there. You'd never let guys go or not show interest in a player that can potentially help you. And I think that a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. could definitely help the 49ers. And here's the reason why. You look at again, their receivers have been struggling at times this year. You have Deebo Samuel with 7 drops on the season. Right behind him, Juwan Jennings with 5. So if you're looking at bringing in a guy like Odell Beckham Jr., his role would be somewhere like he'd be probably your number 3 receiver. I think that you have Brandon Ayuk in a lot of ways right now as the 49ers number 1. Deebo Samuel is 1B. They're kind of going back and forth there. Samuel just with the drop, so it has been an issue. So if you can get Odell Beckham Jr. in and have him replace what you're getting from Juwan Jennings, that's a positive. If you can basically slot in Odell Beckham Jr. as your number 3, push Danny Gray down the list, that's a positive for the 49ers. So I don't think you'd see Odell Beckham as your number 1 and 2, but he'd be a solid number 3. Because I just don't see him coming in and taking snaps away from Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. Those guys are pretty locked in. I see him as more of your 3rd guy. So it's not somebody that you're going to see you would see a ton of, but he could definitely be a help to the offense. Think along the lines of 2019 when they went out and made the trade for the wide receiver Sanders from Denver. that's kind of the role. That's kind of what you'd be looking at with Odell Beckham. He can come in, he can help elevate that group overall. It's very similar even to what they've already done with Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, they had pretty good running back there in Jeff Wilson Jr., right? They knew they were going to get Elijah Mitchell back. But going out and using those draft picks that they used to get Christian McCaffrey, that elevated that whole running back room. Now you have a guy who can do all the things that you're getting from Jeff Wilson Jr. in the running game, a little bit more than that. And you're also getting a guy who's a better receiver than Jeff Wilson Jr. was, just a different player. And I think getting Odell Beckham Jr., if you can bring him in and make the numbers work for him to be a member of the 49ers this season in the second half here down the stretch run, that would be a nice addition for the 49ers. And they're going to have, if we ask them about any interest in Odell Beckham, there's going to always be interest. The 49ers they'll tell you they don't turn away anybody. They show interest in everyone. So I would expect the 49ers to have interest in Odell Beckham Jr., and I would expect his role on the team to be as the, second, third receiver, taking those snaps away from Juwan Jennings, maybe helping out a little bit, taking a snap here or there from Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, just to give those guys a breather. He'd be their super sub kind of thing. The only question I have on Odell Beckham Jr. is his blocking. Is he a guy that can come in and be a solid run blocker for you? I think that's the only question when you look at Odell Beckham Jr. So, yeah, and Randall Riley, this is another one. You look at this and you say, this is Ndamukong Suh. I think this is a guy that would have been great to see the 49ers go after. But as Randall says here, Suh seemingly isn't interested in playing right now. Unfortunately, Suh from up in the Portland area just doesn't have it right now. Apparently, he'd be a nice fit for the 49ers in the middle of the defense. I think he's played at a pretty high level the last few years. I think he'd be a really good fit if he wants to do it. If he doesn't want to play, then you don't worry about it. You can't have anybody out there that's not willing to do that. So we got Bomber T says, I'm healing up from a torn meniscus from jiu-jitsu, and it was nothing compared to the plantar fasciitis I had. So hopefully you're feeling well. Let's see. OBJ hit Ward pretty good. I think you're probably talking about last year down in Los Angeles in the NFC Championship game. So there we go. Those were the questions that I had, that I wanted to get to from you guys. If there's any other questions, you guys could throw them up in the comment section. I'll hang out for a couple minutes and answer anything that you have. But again, following back up on what we started off this show with, the primary things for the 49ers, the top three things that they need to do in order to have success in the second half, to make the playoffs, and to have a deep run through January. Execution. I know it sounds really basic, and it is, but if you don't execute, it doesn't matter how good you are as a team. If you're not executing your game plan, you're having little mistakes here and there. Those are the things that cost you. So even the best teams execute at a very high level. Injuries, 49ers are getting a pretty good number of guys back. Got to keep them healthy. And then the last one is finishing off games. Keep it going and staying there as well. So looks like we have Lucas calling in. Let me change this up really quick, and we'll take a call from Lucas. Oop, so now I'm off. Hey, Lucas, you there?
Hi, Jack. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How you doing?
Hey, great. How are you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
I just wanted to call in once I got time, and now I'm off to work in a few minutes, so I got some time, and just wanted to ask a little bit about the defense. I saw them playing a lot of man-to-man in third down situations, and against the Rams, I saw them playing a lot Hufanga against Allen Robinson in one-on-one, and I was a little bit concerned, but the Rams didn't take advantage of it. I don't know why they're matching up Hufanga against Allen Robinson, and the other matchups have been Cooper Kupp against Jimmy Ward, which also isn't the greatest matchup for the defense.
I think that one of the things with Talon Hufanga is he's done a pretty good job this year working against guys man to man in the slot. Throughout the season, he's done a fairly decent job of dealing with those quick guys inside. When I go back to training camp, Kyle Shanahan talked about how when you're playing in the slot, it's different than when you're playing outside, because when you're playing on the inside, you're able to use leverage and you get help from other positions. And so based off of that, maybe there's some of that that's playing into what Talon Hufanga has been doing, because he's looked really good and solid when it comes to his coverage out of the slot this year.
I'm still concerned if another team has a little bit more vertical speed and they could beat him deep.
Yes, that would. I agree with you, because Allen Robinson, he's a good receiver, but he's not a speed guy. So yes, you're right. So I think that could have been part of why the 49ers had so much trouble against Kansas City, right? Kansas City's got a lot of speed at wide receiver across the board, and they have a quarterback that can get the ball to him. And I think that was partly why they were able to take advantage of the 49ers defense the way that they were. But outside of a couple of teams in the NFC, or excuse me, the AFC, I don't think there's anybody in the NFC that really throws that at the 49ers.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe a little bit with Arizona, because they have some really good speed there with, now that DeAndre Hopkins is back, and they have the little slot guy that did a pretty good job against them last year as well. Rondale, but I don't. Yeah, Rondale Moore. Thank you. But beyond that, I think they're pretty good with all those matchups.
So you're not concerned with the defense if Lenoir stays the outside guy?
I'm not overly concerned with it. I don't know if, for me, I think the 49ers would be at their best if Verrett is healthy and Verrett can play at the level that he played in 2020. That's the key. We don't know that. But if Jason Verrett is completely healthy and able to play at his highest level, Jason Verrett and Tarvarius Ward are your two best outside corners. That's where you go there. And then you would take Deommodore Lenoir, who I think is now your best slot guy that you have left on your roster right now. And you put him into the slot. And then you keep Talon Hufanga and Tayshaun Gibson on the back end. I think that's the direction that I would go if everybody was fully healthy.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jack. I really appreciate you. I love watching your shows.
Awesome.
As you can see.
Yeah, no, you're up late, and or now it sounds like you're getting ready to go to work now. So no, I appreciate you very much for watching as much as you do, and it's great to get a chance to talk to you.
Thank you, Jack. I'll be in Santa Clara against the Buccaneers. I'll travel there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if you get a chance, I'd be awesome to say hi to you.
Great. Maybe I'm in the press box because I can get a credential because of my job. Because I'm working at a national TV and we broadcast the NFL. So maybe we have the game live on TV and I can get there in the press box.
That would be even better, Lucas. That'd be fantastic. I'd love to. That'd be awesome to be able to see up in the press box. So, yeah, let me know the week before kind of what your plans are, and if you're not going to be able to be up there, but you can always I can meet you down in the end zone and say hi to you.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Jack. Have a nice
All right,
evening.
Thanks. You too. Take care.
You too.
Bye. All right, so let me bring this back to my normal one, and then that's fun. Lucas comes to us from Austria, and you can hear the accent, but he's involved with some sounds like it was television, and it'd be fantastic to see him in the press box at Levi Stadium in a couple of weeks when the Niners take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Randall Riley doing my work for me says like and subscribe, please. It only takes a few seconds. That's the biggest one. If you guys can like and subscribe, that would be huge. The channel is definitely growing, and I really appreciate everybody that watches. We have Dan says, Jack, did you expect Saleh and McDaniel to have such early success? Yes. Well, I should say yes and no. I felt like Mike McDaniel would have success with the Dolphins because that was a pretty good team that he walked into. And then they made a lot of really strong moves as well. So Of those two, I felt like McDaniel was going to have more success than Saleh. The situation in New York, just such a tough situation with what the Jets have been. So big time kudos to Robert Saleh for the job that he's done to get the Jets where they are. You look at those two, Saleh and McDaniel, and I think the job that Saleh's had to do to get where he is right now in terms of where the Jets are on this season compared to what Mike McDaniel's been doing and the two rosters that they have together. Robert Saleh's done the better job. Mike McDaniel walked into a situation on a team that had back-to-back winning seasons. It wasn't like they were not a good team. They were a solid football team, just needed some help at the coaching position. Very similar, but not quite to what we hear a lot when it comes to the 49ers back in 2011 with Jim Harbaugh. Mike McDaniel's situation similar to that, but I think McDaniel walked into an even better situation because that was a team that was actually winning games over 500 the 2 seasons before he joined them. Saleh. So if you're looking at those two and you're asking me also who's doing a better job, I think that goes to Robert Saleh. Brian, remember the toolbox, hit that like button, everybody, call in. Randall Riley says, Saleh is a leader of men. Love to see it. Yeah, it's good to see both those guys having success, and it's really good that they're both having success over in the AFC. And we'll also see what happens here. I think the 49ers and the Dolphins, that's going to be a heck of a matchup down the road. Andre Moore, another member of the Toolbox, says, hello, Jack. Do you think we should be concerned about the Seahawks? Yes. I think if you're a 49er fan, you need to be concerned about the Seahawks. The Seahawks are playing at a very high level. The Seahawks, the other piece of it too, we saw them 49ers play the Seahawks in week 2. The only reason Seattle was even on the scoreboard was a blocked field goal that was taken back the other way for a touchdown. Otherwise, it's a shutout for the 49ers defense. But the key here is that the Seahawks are a different team now. They had a lot of rookies, a lot of young guys playing. Those guys are now getting a good amount of seasoning under their belts. You're also seeing a run game that's come to life in Seattle. They were 1-2 early on. They got committed to the running game, and then you saw them start to turn it around when they committed to the run game. Kenneth Walker is a improvement for them at that position. So for the Seattle Seahawks, they are playing at a high level. 49er fans should be concerned about the Seahawks. And right now, like I said earlier on in the show, I think we're on a collision course for these two teams to meet up on December 15th in Seattle with the NFC West lead on the line. I think the 49ers are going to win the NFC West. I thought they have the talent to be 13-4. I think that's what the number was that I put out there earlier on this season. Before the season started, excuse me. I still do. So there we go. I'm going to wrap this thing up. I'm going to just say thank you all for taking the time to tune in tonight. I will be back tomorrow night with Jesse Naylor for the Hammer and Nail Show. Do me a favor, though, before you leave. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Also, if you have people that you know are 49ers fans in your family, friends, those types of things, and they're not already checking out this show, hook them up with the channel. Let them know about the show, the Jack Hammer Show. Let them, get them over to the channel. Help them to subscribe and hit that like button. All those types of things. I just want to say thanks to everybody for taking the time to join, and I am looking forward to to chat with you guys down the road as we go through the rest of the season together. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon. Be back tomorrow night, like I said.